right, hi everybody. Monday live, and we are on YouTube. So I am kind of gonna hit the ground running because live videos could go really long and boring. So today I'm doing again a dragonfly, but what I'm gonna use is this really cool iridescent Japanese paints. And actually my friend was visiting her family in Japan and she brought those to me. So they came from Japan on a plane, but the difference is, and I'll show you this one right here, how light and beautiful that looks. And this is my normal watercolor, still light, but when you have them next to each other you can totally see the difference. And it's something that you cannot see on the screen, but it's really cool because it sparkles. So this will be our next tutorial on dragonflies, and that's going to be number 5. So we're going to kind of move a little bit to more complicated ones. Let me know if you want traceables, because I already sketched it. And the previous dragonfly tutorial had kind of touched up on how we sketch it and how we do the dragonfly and kind of how we plan it. But I'll show you something really fun and easy thing to do. And you can do that with dragonflies, butterflies, anything that it has 2 even sides. So this is a 5x7, which matches my rectangle here, and usually I'll fold it in half this way or in half this way. So this is the part, and depending on my positioning of the paper, I'm going to use this one when it's vertical and this one when it's horizontal. But I will trace on both sides, and that will trace to my paper and will make it super easy. The same thing I do with, and this is cookie sheets. This is super easy. Everybody probably should have this at home. And you do just half of the wing, and then you trace it on both sides with a pencil. And if you see how thick the lines are, I have traced that many times to use it in paint. I use this for creating like cards for friends and things like that. So I have a baby one which is for the envelope, and a big one which is for the card. But this is a little trick when you are trying to do something very symmetrical. All right, so let's begin. And I hope today my sound is good, because last time we had a little difficulties with the sound. I forgot to turn it on. That was the difficult part. So I am going to start with blue color, and this, like I said, they're very, very light. I'm going to do dry surface, and obviously my color is going to be wet. And I'm going to start from the center, and I'm going to pull it around. And if you watched the previous tutorial, was with pencils, kind of the same thing, but with pencils. Now I'm going to clean my brush, make it wet, and I'm gonna run right at the edge of this, so I'll have this smooth edge versus a sharp edge on the paint. Now I'm gonna do this with the pink, and even though it looks pretty dark here, when I touch the paper, it looks almost like kids' nail polish. It's iridescent and it looks almost like it's good to eat. And I'm gonna add that pink right on the top. Then I'm gonna wash my brush and run it on the edge, and run it on the edge, and I'll have this to kind of play around. Now when it's wet on the area that's a little bit lighter, I can go in and just gently drop yellow. But I'm gonna try to drop it closer to the pink, because if we drop it closer to the blue, it might start turning greenish. So I'm gonna drop it in, and again with a clean brush, I'm gonna smooth this out. Now when I'm doing painting like this, and honestly that looks a little bit like a flag. So let's make it less flaggy, and I'm going to just add a little bit more and break those lines. So I'm going to go in here and add a little more color. This is something that we could watch for, make sure it doesn't really happen, so we get too predictable of layering the different colors. So I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna go around, and I'm gonna do a V, and I'm going to do a C, clean wet brush, and I am going to go around, and I'll leave a little bit in the center that it's dry. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna do kind of a V and a C. I'm gonna go clean wet brush, not drippy wet, but wet. And I forgot to leave the white, so let's just do both the same. So that's how not big deal this is if we do something that we forgot or changed our minds. Now what happens when pink and blue mix together? They create kind of a purple, and this is why I wanted to leave that white area not wet, because I wanted to keep some of that pink like really pure, but that's okay, because every time I paint, if I do something different, I'll just take it as it is. And I'm gonna go a little pinkish in the center. And now for the body, because we don't really have a lot of space to do anything here, I'm going to do a J on one side and a dot on the other. So you can just choose left or right, whatever is more comfortable to you. And I am going to do a J on each of those little shapes, which are like rectangles or squares when they go smaller down, with soft edge. And then I'm gonna take a yellow, and I'm gonna just drop. It's not exactly a dot, it's just on the top left corner, the opposite side of my J. And I'm gonna do that bottom pincher. It just gives me illusion, and I'll show you up close. Let's move all this stuff from the canvas, and I'll lift it up. So it gives you kind of a dark side and a light side versus just one color, which will be blue. If it's a little bit, you can do the same thing. You can do a darker blue and then something that's more transparent blue. But when I do two colors, it makes it more interesting. So I'm gonna take that yellow, and I am looking on the screen and I see this little thing here, how it disappeared. So I'm just gonna add a little brush strokes and make it more interesting. So this paper is very lightweight paper. I think this one is 160 grams or 98 pounds, and I love to paint on this paper, which is 300 grams and 140 pounds. So if you're doing cards, this is my practice paper, like a big block of paper. When I have done something so many times and I'm doing a practice, you see how it's starting to work. We'll fix that later. I put another piece of paper on top, and I actually will iron this. I will iron it without steam. And let's add a little more white to it, and I'm just gonna drop it in here so the white is super shimmery, and then the head, and I think we're done. This is when you're stuck at home without a card for your friend. This could be something that you can do and be super fast. Now this is very limited palette, so let's say I wanted to do a shadow. I don't really have space to mix this, but I'll use that here. And even though it's a limited palette, I have blue and I have pink. So it's gonna give me a purple, and if you see this purple right next door, it's almost the same. So I'm going to use this purple, which is still iridescent purple, and I'm going to create a little bit of a shadow on one side and under the wings. And if it gets a little too dark, I'll clean my brush and I'll go right over. And I'll do the same thing on this wing right here. And I'll do this wing. And obviously this wing. And I can actually continue even on top of this one because the bottom wings obviously on the bottom. And then it's going to give me more of a three-dimensional looking piece. Now, this looks very much like illustration. So if I take a fine point Sharpie, or this is a Pilot permanent, and if my area is dry, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go around and actually add a little bit of lines, and you'll see how that's gonna pop and make it much better, especially if you're using this for a card. And I'm trying not to make a perfect line, because if you mess up on a perfect line, it's more obvious than doing something like this, disconnecting the line in a way. And I think this is it. I'm gonna do a little few lines in the center, and that's it. So did you see how the our little dragonfly popped when we added those darker lines? Now you can do that with paint, and if you want to do it with paint, you want to have like a script brush, but that will take too long. So we just cheated and did that really fast. So 30 minutes into the video, and I think we're done. So obviously next time it's probably gonna take us full 30 minutes or more on doing this guy, because there is a lot more details. So if you want a traceable for this, let me know. So you can always comment on the video. I'm checking this like a few times a week, or you can go to Facebook, Damps and Books, and reach me there. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you live next Monday.